Hi again. Samuel Andrews, Christianity and Anti-Christianity and their final conflict. Dealing with the teaching of the Revelation here, he's already dealt with two of the great symbols in the book as to the relation of Christ to his church and the church to the world. Those symbols were the bride, who is very prominent in the book, and the city, Babylon. Now he's talking about the fact that a lot of Protestants, of course, have limited the application of Babylon to the Church of Rome. He says the application of this symbol is not to be limited to the Church of Rome, as is often done. It embraces the whole Christian church insofar as it symbolizes a condition of things in which the Lord is deprived of the full exercise of his prerogatives as her head by her unhallowed alliance with secular rulers, whether the alliance be on her part voluntary or coerced. The sin is the same, whether the state be monarchical or democratic in its government, whether the church be established by law or, if nominally free, is controlled by the popular will expressed through majorities. Babylon is found wherever there is interference on the part of princes or people with his absolute rule, and his children are thus brought under bondage. But if this has been a common sin, it has been most manifest in the Roman Church, whose organization and claims to supremacy have brought it into closer relations, sometimes of peace, sometimes of hostility, to both kings and peoples. But this intermingling of the religious and political elements, making the church to be a component part of the state, was more than a denial by the church to her head of his prerogatives of rule. It was the sin of fornication, already spoken of, a sin by which he was most deeply wounded and dishonored. The church was his espoused virgin, whom, under his own ministries and ordinances, he would make and preserve holy and without blemish to the day of the marriage. Therefore, how great her fall to play the harlot with the kings of the earth, and be their handmaid to promote their selfish interests and minister to their pleasures. This was to infuse the spirit of harlotry into her own children by effacing the distinction between the church and the world, between the sacred and the secular, and to intoxicate the nations with vain expectations of the prosperity and glory to be given them under her administration and before the coming of their judge and king. We may now understand why, upon the forehead of the woman sitting upon the beast, the name was written Mystery, Babylon the Great, Revelation 17:4 and 5. Under the combination of the two symbols, the harlot in Babylon, we have presented the last stage of the alliance between the church and the state. Through its corrupting influence upon her own spiritual condition and her growing spirit of pride and ambition, she is ready to make an alliance even with the beast, thus utterly rejecting the headship of her Lord. This fall into harlotry is a mystery, like the mystery of lawlessness, something known to all and yet not known, now dimly discerned by the spiritual eye, but not clearly to be seen, till the last trump shall sound and the mystery of God shall be finished, according to Revelation 10:7. It is at this time that the long-suffering of the Lord comes to an end. He will now separate the faithful from the unfaithful. The command goes forth, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and yet that ye receive not of her plagues. This separation made, Babylon becomes the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. The apostate church, the faithful having been all gathered out, becomes the church of the Antichrist. As we have seen, Christendom, being the product of Christianity, an amalgam of the religious and political, is presented in both its elements under the symbol Babylon, the great city. As a political system, it must stand or fall with the church with which it is in such close alliance, and its destruction is sudden and complete. An angel cast a great millstone into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city, Babylon, be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. The Christian church and the Christian state fall together, for the enmity of the Antichrist embraces both, and both must be overthrown before his kingdom can be set up. This same distinction of the faithful and the apostate and their separation at the time of the end is elsewhere taught us in the book under the symbols of the harvest and the vintage. That's in Revelation 14, verses 14 to 20. The harvest embracing those who have lived in Babylon and been infected with its errors and vices, but are at last gathered out of it and ripened, dried by the fire of judgment, the same as the great multitude that comes purified out of the great tribulation. The vintage embraces those gathered to the Antichrist, the vine of the earth, the counterfeit of the true vine. This is cast into the great winepress of the wrath of God, according to Revelation 14:19, etc. Now he's dealing with the symbol of the beast, having finished with the bride and Babylon. The beast, of a beast as a symbol of a cruel and oppressing nation or state, we have already spoken in treating of the visions of Daniel. This prophet saw four beasts coming up from the sea, four successive kingdoms, each with its special characteristics, but all standing in hostile relations to the Jewish people. The beast seen by St. John to arise out of the sea has the same symbolic character. It represents some persecuting power, but the object of its persecution is not the Jewish people, for the teachings of the Revelation directly concern only the Christian church. When mentioned in this book, the Jews appear in their symbolical, not historical character. Now, some would have a problem with that. He references there Revelation 7, verse 4, the listing of the 12 tribes, etc. There has been much discussion whether this beast is to be identified with the last beast of Daniel, that is in Daniel 7:7, the symbol of the Roman Empire, and also what its relation to the 11th horn of this beast. But into this discussion is not necessary to enter here, but it is important to notice that while the beasts of Daniel are representative of kingdoms with a succession of rulers, yet this is probably not the case here, as the Messianic kingdom has but one king. Both king and kingdom may be spoken of as identical, as in the petition, "Thy kingdom come," and as the kingdom of the Antichrist has but one king, both king and kingdom may be represented by the beast. This kingdom, as the last of the series of hostile kingdoms, may unite in itself all the characteristics of those that preceded it, as symbolized by the bear, the leopard, and the lion. And this kingdom may be said to be universal, since the dragon, the prince of this world, gives the beast from the sea his throne and great authority. It deserves also to be considered that this beast is described under the same form as the dragon, with 7 heads and 10 horns, implying coextensive authority. We find then no difficulty in believing that the beast of St. John symbolizes the Antichrist as king, and also the nature of his kingdom as both political and ecclesiastical. That there is much obscurity still in regard to the interpretation of chapter 17, 9 to 11, we all know, and it probably will not be removed until the Antichrist appears and begins to run his course. The transfer of the crowns from the heads of the dragon to the horns of the beast may point to some outward establishment of the authority of Satan, which has not to this time been exercised secretly. Which has to this time been exercised secretly, the world seeing it not. But now, in the Antichrist, his representative, it is seen in full manifestation. This beast arises out of the sea, not out of the sea of the heathen nations, as did the beasts of Daniel, but out of the sea of Christendom, the peoples of Christendom democratized. Now, that's obviously controversial too. The sea being the symbol of that state of society in which man measures man, as in the sea all drops of water are equal, and also of instability, that form of rule where the unstable popular will is supreme. At that period, kingly governments, the mountains, have been swallowed up in the depths of the sea, or if the name of kings is retained, their kingdoms are in fact democracies. Out of the stormy sea, casting up mire and dirt, comes the Antichrist. And here he references, interestingly, Luke 21:25 about the roaring of the sea and its agitation, men's hearts failing them out of fear. Let us now consider what we are taught of this ruler from the sea. Next time, that is. I'll put in a link to Tregelles here, Samuel Prideaux Tregelles, and his thoughts about some of this, the symbols of the book of Daniel in particular. There's several videos, you might want to watch all of them, but Tregelles has an interesting take on this, which is not following the normal trends of his day back around 1840, 1850. See you next time.